All right. The wrong keyboard. Nothing good happens. So, welcome back to goal setting, part 2. Yay. Yes, that's the right mouse. Oh, that's the wrong screen, though. This screen. There we go. So now I think you're seeing a big giant slide that says goal setting.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to know. So, ground rules. How did we do last time with our first class? I see. Okay, yeah, that's actually a really good way to go with that, because that helps a lot. One person at a time. Did pretty good on the mute, didn't hear too much background. I think we did reasonably well, all things considered, getting through the challenges. Confidentiality and fun, hopefully. It won't be too laughable, but we'll still take advantage of those opportunities to find things to laugh at. And the one change that we added is that I would be explicit about exactly how long you were going to be in breakout groups so that you could manage your time a little bit better, rather than just kind of leaving it open to everybody. Anything else that anybody wants to add to the list or changes to make? Hearing nothing, I'm going to go ahead and press forward. All right, today we're going to finish up our module on goal setting. So you've got your action planning forms, both the things you wrote down last week, stop, start, and continue, and we're just continuing on with that this week. Now, again, last time, any questions about anything we've talked about last time? Here's your chance to go ahead and put them in the chat box as you went ahead and worked on going to review. So before I go back to the review, any questions anything you wanted to chat about? Any questions on anything, please chat them. There you go. That's what I want to say. Nothing yet? All right. So we started off with looking at the layers of goals, starting with your strategic goals for your organization. Then you have your tactical goals for your team, those things your team is going to do in order to help your organization achieve their strategic goal. And then we get down to individuals' objectives. And we had just begun our conversation talking about objectives last time. And from there, each person will create their own set of tasks that's going to allow them to accomplish their objectives. It's going to make sure that your team accomplishes its tactical goal. That's going to help make sure your organization accomplishes its strategic goals. And of course, you've still got the existential or non-planning stuff hanging out there. That flexibility, that openness to adjust to changes like, I don't know, global pandemics or whatever it might happen to be. Hopefully this will never happen again. Ever. I was going to say in our lifetimes, but even better, never again. All right, we talked about SMART objectives, right? Specific, what exactly it is that person is going to do. What's the measurement so that it doesn't feel subjective, an objective measurement of the objective, right? Anybody could look at it and say, yes, you did what we said you were going to do. It's not subject to debate, did not, did to. The person whose objective it is believes that it is achievable. Doesn't matter what you or your boss or the organization might think, it's the person who's getting that objective who really needs to believe that it's possible. Because if they feel the objective is impossible, then they're not going to put a lot of effort into trying to make it happen. Relevant. They understand how it ties not only to the tactical goals for the team, but also to the goals of the organization. And one of the things that I hope we talked about last time is when we talk about, different generations, the earlier people are in their career, the more important that this relevance is made explicit to them. As we said, some people are really good at understanding those links, but when people are starting out, it's often not that obvious to them. And one of the things we're finding when we talk about millennials, put those in air quotes because millennials are just as different as boomers or anybody else as we look across the population as a whole, but we do find that younger people tend to be even more motivated by seeing how their goals are part of a greater whole. That they're working for something other than just put your nose down and getting the job done. When we talk about the greatest generation, they were they were much more comfortable with the idea of, well, you have to pay your dues, which means just putting your nose down and grinding through it. And at some point, it'll feel bigger. Today's younger people, they want to recognize that they're part of something bigger right from the beginning. And the way we do that is by making the relevance of their objectives explicit. Look, if you accomplish this, this is how it feeds into the organization being successful and accomplishing the mission of our organization. Whether that's, making sure that everything has a box that it goes in, or that we are actually making the world safer in the case of a global pandemic, whatever it might happen to be. That relevance really helps people be tied into that greater goal and not just focused on, put your head down and do your job. And that's one of the most motivating tools that we have, as it turns out, in our toolbox now, and was overlooked for a really long time. And then, of course, the deadline. Things without a deadline never happen. So make sure that you have an explicit deadline for people. Makes sense, right? Crystal clear. So, in homework, you were to get together with a partner and go through the assignment and determine if those objectives were SMART objectives, that class activity. And if not, what did they need? As we said, when it comes to especially achievable and relevant, sometimes those relevant is not explicitly listed in the goal. It's just, that may be part of the conversation. And achievable is a very personal thing, so sometimes you really can't tell, looking at someone else's goal, whether it's going to seem achievable to them or not. So you may not be able to tell those things. Make sense? You all remember that assignment? Did you all get together with your partners? If not, you've done it as a solo assignment, at the very least. Okay, so let's see. Number 1, that whole conference planning committee is updating the manual. What did you decide?
That is not very specific because it says various, so it's not clearly stating which ones.
Okay, good, right. Anytime you have one of those words, one of those vague words, the odds are really good it's not specific. I can say I did update the manual. Look, the footnote now says 2020. Ta-da! I suspect there was probably something more than that was hoped for. Anything else?
It's not time defined.
Sorry, I had to double roll back because I rolled over my blanket because it's
Doesn't
cold
specify
here.
which manual either.
Mm-hmm.
It does specify the Publication Policies and Procedures Manual. So that level of specificity we do have. No deadline. Right. Doesn't say when you're going to get this done. Anything else?
Not measurable.
Not measurable, right. As we said, anytime you start with that vague word in your specify, the odds are really good that you're also going to miss the measurability of it. Achievable's easy if it's not specific or measurable, because you do pretty much anything and you could say, ta-da, I did it. Relevant, probably not explicitly stated in the objective, but if you are the communications coordinator, updating manuals probably feels very relevant to what you do. We mentioned not time.
Donna,
okay?
I think you said this in the beginning, but we just kind of were supposed to make the assumption that all of these are relevant, correct?
Okay. I don't know if I said that, but sure. Okay. We could do that. Yeah, because yes, you're right. I probably did say that because it is really hard. Like I said, in the one example we looked at in class, the relevance was spelled out very specifically. In order to increase sales, you're going to do this. But it is not a common practice to put that in the objective itself because it can just make the objective really long. It's not a bad practice, though. As you're working on objectives for your people, you may want to think about your people and the objectives and decide, you know what, in this case, I may want to list this. In order to increase our profitability, your objective is to do this. So, all right, so I'll skip over relevant. Thank you. How about the eliminate excess packaging? Missing anything?
Missing a measurable.
Missing a measurable.
Mm-hmm.
So
Not
probably what else
specific.
is it also missing?
Yeah, not specific.
Specific. Right.
There's
We
no end
haven't
date
really.
either. Missing
I'm
a
sorry?
time frame.
And a time frame. Right. Excess is a very vague word, and it's certainly not measurable in any useful sense. Yeah, there's one less packing peanut in every box. Ta-da! I've eliminated the excess packaging. So without that specificity and that measurement, you don't have a robust objective. Anything else? We'll assume that it's probably achievable since it's not specific and measured. We're assuming the relevance, and at least we do have a deadline this October. All right, increase attendance at the annual program. Perfect?
Not specific and no measurable.
Not specific and no measurable. Yep. Is it timed?
Yeah,
I guess so by the actual
got the
date
program,
of
I
the
guess.
program.
The event.
Right, yeah. Even though it doesn't say that explicitly, whenever the annual program is, that's our deadline. And if this were my job, then there's a really good chance that I would know when my annual program is. Then no, I really don't want to update iTunes right now. Thanks for asking. Okay, good. Gain 25% of the market for sports shoes. Specific?
So my gut on this one was that it was smart, but in speaking with Marcus, I thought he brought up an interesting point that it's not really achievable. If it's it's 25% of the entire shoe market. Seems a bit ambitious.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. Yes, it is specific. 25% is certainly measurable. We can measure our market share. Achievable, unless our company name is Nike, and even nowadays there are so many names now. 25% really does sound unachievable. And the reason that this is in here is one of the things that we're seeing is people focus on setting stretch goals. And they say, well, I'll set 25%, and if they achieve 20%, that would be fantastic. But what we actually find is that if the goal is so stretchy that it doesn't feel achievable, it's actually demotivating, and you'll be lucky if you get 1% increase in market share. So yeah, that achievable isn't something that should be overlooked. Relevant, yeah, probably timed. Yep. Other thoughts? All right. And last but not least, make ZZ Pop the preferred brand of cola. What do you think?
Looks smart.
Say again?
Yes.
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 Specific,
Yes,
measurable,
looks like it's a
achievable,
smart one.
relevant, timed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you the same argument with the one before. We're talking about the preferred brand in young women. Do you really think you're going to make some off-label product their preferred brand? That tends to be a brand-conscious kind of age demographic there. So the odds are I would have a tough time believing it's achievable. Although, I can picture this incredible ad campaign with ZZ Top pushing ZZ Pop, so that might work for baby boomers as a market.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to get those 18 to 25-year-old young women in there. One of the questions about this, is this measurable?
Can be through surveys.
Right. Yep. And again, that's an important distinction. If you are in the sales and marketing part of the business, you have tools that allow you to measure customer preference. Like you said, surveys or what have you. So even though something doesn't necessarily have, what we on the manufacturing side might see as a crystal clear measurement, it doesn't mean it's not measurable. Again, it's very much dependent on that particular objective and the part of the organization that person works in. If we were going to give our sales staff a productivity or an efficiency rating, they might quite realistically push back and say, well, that's not measurable. We can't measure our efficiency of sales calls. I don't know. I don't work in sales. I have guessed already. Right, so again, it's very case dependent. Any questions, comments, observations? Hearing nothing, I'll say there's nothing. All right, so now the next thing that we just started to talk about is turning some of those goals into specific objectives. All right, we mentioned improving safety. We'll look at last year's data, and based on last year's data, we'll set an objective for this year. No lost time accident and no more than 3 OSHA recordable incidents in the year. Yes, our goal might be 0 accidents. From an objective standpoint, we want to be careful about setting a goal that once one person gets a paper cut, everybody else gives up because, well, there's no way to achieve it. We're doomed now. So,
Donna, could you
yes.
kind of fix something like that by making it monthly? That way it kind of resets every time in case an incident did happen?
Yep, that's another way to approach that. To have 0 this month, and then, the challenge is, how are you going to capture that at the end of the year?
Okay.
And it's doable. It's not impossible, but that is the challenge. If we miss it by 1 each month, is that good enough? So you may want to also set a kind of well, I think it's the next slide. Oh, this is where we were. So the next slide, we'll talk about that a little bit. So you started to create some SMART objectives. Anybody got an example that they're willing to throw in the chat of one that they think nailed it? Here is the objective that I created since we talked last week for me or someone on my team that I think meets all the SMART criteria. Giving you a minute to type now. I'm giving you a few minutes to type now. No one felt they were able to come up with a SMART objective? This is not new news, folks. Come on now. You were just all so busy sheltering that you hadn't had the opportunity? Respond to RFQs of 2 spherical parts or less within 24 hours of receipt. Thank you, Andrew. Team, specific? Give me a thumbs up if that sounds specific to you. Specific? Measurable? 2 parts or less, 24 hours? Achievable. I really like what you've done there by clarifying which RFQs we expect that 24-hour turnaround. Oh, there we go. Everybody was busy typing at the same time. Right? Because sometimes you'll see those objectives, respond to all customer requests within a day. Like, well, sometimes customers request really, really hard things. And if an acceptable response is going to be, yeah, got your request, thanks for sharing, then you're probably going to miss the actual goal that you're trying to achieve. And if you're going to beat people up for not having answered impossible questions within a day, then you're also not going to accomplish the goal that they're trying to receive, that yet you're trying to accomplish. All right, now I have to put on my... errors, oh, now there's an interesting, I'm going to pick on Matt for a minute. Learn how to create threads to the proper size when a part needs to be anodized by the end of the year. What's the vague word in that sentence? Learn, exactly. What is going to be your assessment that's going to prove that someone has learned how to do it? Do they have to pass a test at the end?
They fit it to a standard. So we have thread gauges that you can thread a part onto to ensure that it was made to the proper size. And then the anodizing process actually adds material to the threads. So since threads fit very tightly, it isn't a direct offset such as a diameter would be or an inner diameter. So it's more three-dimensionally.
Somebody propose a measurement for that. By the end of the year, they're going to learn how to create threads. I suspect that's not actually the goal, to learn how to do it. So at the end of the year, I could say, yep, I know how to do it. You'll say, you have achieved your objective.
create a process, a documented process for it.
Right, train someone on the process such that the thread fits in the standard or whatever you were calling it.
Not to train someone. This is a goal for the trainee, right?
Yeah, it would be create a documented process for producing threads that need to be
Now, that's a very different one from what I read when I read that the first time. So my job is to write a process for doing this?
No.
Okay.
Step one is
not creating a documented process.
Yeah. Not yet.
What is it? Oh, come on, folks, you know this.
Could it be like a reduction of errors when creating, or reduction of waste when creating?
Correctly.
Yeah.
Right? That's the objective, is to do it correctly. That's my guess. Am I right, Matt?
Yes.
It's not learn how to do it, it's actually do it.
Yeah.
So what happens right now, Matt? Do we toss out parts where the threads don't fit?
No, we actually don't. We've only anodized 2 different jobs so far, because typically anodizing threaded assemblies is specific to imaging, and most of our tooling isn't anodized. So it's only been a couple of instances that we've encountered this, yet it's a capability we want to develop and be comfortable with.
So that robust objective, the SMART objective, is, create threads the proper size for parts that need to be anodized with a quality rate of 98% or 0 rejects or whatever is the actual measurement that is acceptable to you by the end of the year. Right? It's do it, not learn how to do it. I know how to do calculus. I took calculus. I can't actually do it, but I have a theoretical understanding of how the process works. That's not what you need. You need somebody who does it. Good. Reduce shipping errors to an average of 3.6 per month for year ending 2020. Specific. Assume I work in the shipping department, or I create shipping documents, or wherever shipping errors come from. My question is, what is the timing on that? So by the end of the year, go ahead.
Yeah. So we want to have an average of less than 4 per month throughout the entire year.
Right. So if I have 20 in January, February, March, April, May, June, and then I have 1 in July, August, September, October, November, or vice versa, that's even better. If I have, 2 in the first 6 months and then 6 in the last 6 months, my average per month is going to be 4. Is that good?
Then I guess we missed our goal.
Well, I've achieved my 4 for the year. My average over the year was 4.
Right.
I mean, are you okay?
Actually,
0, 8, 0, 12, 0.
No, I would like to see it 4 or less per month.
Okay. So that year ending is actually misleading. That's not your deadline. That's not your deadline. When do you want me to start achieving 4 or less per month?
I would say probably by the start of Q2.
Okay. I think that makes it a stronger objective, right? Reduce shipping errors to an average of 0.6 per month starting in 2Q. And so then, January, February, March, I'm trying to figure out where our shipping errors are doing. I'm doing root cause analysis. I'm redesigning my process. I'm doing all those things so that I reduce the number of errors. So now, again, kind of like we talked about earlier, now I'm going to look at, couldn't remember what month came after March. So April, how many did I have? May, how many did I have? June, how many did I have? July. Get the idea. And I can look at each of those individually and say, okay, yeah, you did it for all 9 remaining months, or you did it for 8 out of 9 months, so that's pretty good. It's not 100% achievement.
Yeah.
So rather than an average per month for the year, which can spend a lot of time lately looking at statistics. Make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Cool. Parts for related jobs. All right, and Renata, kind of the same thing we talked about with Ryan. You know, there should be some deadline when you expect that to start happening.
Okay. So immediately.
To a specific size thread gauge.
Okay.
All right. So just looking at some of them. Cool. Good efforts there. So some of the things that we've talked about a little bit in different ways, some different kinds of challenges that SMART objectives can create. One of them really has to do with the cascading thing. So sometimes if you're looking at your goal and it's way too big, you know, we want to improve productivity. Breaking that down into smaller pieces, maybe I have an objective for my team to reduce the changeover time. We're going to improve productivity by reducing changeover time. I'm going to, you know, give it a measurable 10%, and obviously I'm going to give it a deadline, whatever that might happen to be, by year end. Then I'm going to cascade that down to an even more bite-sized piece for my maintenance technician in this example, that they're going to identify process changes that will reduce the changeover time on their process lines by 10% by the end of the year. Make sense? So hard, you know. So the other thing is maybe there's, again, similar to cascading, maybe for some people you need to give them bite-sized pieces. What are the smaller steps? So maybe my maintenance technician looked at that reduced changeover time by 10% and said, oh my God, there's no way I can achieve that. Do you know how much work that would be? I can't imagine how I'll get that done within this year. So then I'm going to break that down again into smaller objectives, which is first they're going to measure the time for the 3 lines in first quarter, because we really don't have a good idea how long changeover even takes us at this point in time, which I'm sure many of you have experienced is an all too common occurrence. We know it's too long, but we have no idea what it is. So first quarter, all you're going to do is measure our changeover time on these 3 lines. Great. And how much we vary from that time. All right, here's your next objective. Second quarter, you're going to pick the one with the greatest variance and reduce that average by 10% and get the variance cut in half. And third quarter, you do the 3rd line, and fourth quarter, you do the 4th line. So you can look at that and say, okay, can you do this in first quarter? Can you measure the changeover on all 3 lines? Great. Now you're done with that. Second quarter, you get to focus on our worst case, or you can, and again, you decide if it's the worst case or the easiest case, depending on how things are. And again, you may decide to change that. When you measure them, you realize, oh my God, our worst case is an absolute nightmare. Maybe my second quarter goal should be that easiest case or whatever. And you can get that person to agree, yeah, you know what, these 4 objectives are achievable. But that one, reduce changeover time by 10%, that just seemed so huge I couldn't possibly figure out how I was going to do that. So I'll just kind of go about my day-to-day job with that in the back of my mind in the hopes that magic opportunities will appear. Have you ever seen people approach objectives that way, in the hope that magic opportunities will appear? Yeah, probably we all have at some point. So breaking it down into 4 different achievable objectives makes that employee say, okay, I can do this. And there you've got that motivation in there. So you've done some of this. Obviously, the assignment is to do the rest of it. You know, go through the rest of your objectives, and you also need to decide how much of that makes sense with where your business is right now. You know, I see Dave's still in the office, so it probably makes sense to continue to work on objectives. For those of you who are not in the office, you may really, truly need to sit down with your boss when everything gets back into the office and say, okay, what are the goals that we want to achieve for the rest of the year? Because this year has gotten off to such a weird start that it's really tough for us to have a sense for how things are going. So normally we would stop now and you would write SMART objectives, and you've already done that. Anybody have anything else that they want to throw in the chat to say, I was thinking this was good and now I'm a little bit less sure. So I'd like the input from the rest of my classmates into how this could be better. I'll give you a minute to throw that challenging objective into the chat so that you have the opportunity to tap into all the other brains we have on this call.
Hey, Donna.
Yes.
At our company, we're considering implementing or adopting an OKR approach to goal setting. If you're familiar with that, objectives and key results.
Okay.
Sounds like there's a lot of overlap with what you're presenting here. I just wondered if you could comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think that it's just another way of looking at SMART. There's lots of other acronyms. A good objective, though, will hit those parts, whether we're calling it OKR, our objective and our key results. People still need to know specifically what is it that they're asked to do. Those key results should be very much that measurement. I need to still believe that I can achieve it. If my key result is that I've jumped tall buildings in a single bound, it's like, yeah, that ain't going to happen, and it's going to be demotivating. Obviously, still tying, hopefully those key results really make that tie into our organization's big picture goals explicit. But sometimes you still may need to spell that out for some people to help them see how this key result is not a busy work kind of an assignment, and it really is tying into something achievable, something relevant, not achievable, relevant. And then the deadlines. Yeah, so it's just a different way to talk about it, but it's going to hit all the same aspects, characteristics, that's the word. Any other questions, comments, any challenging objectives out there that you want to pull some additional knowledge into? Nope, we're good. You ready to go out there and write your objectives? I am going to ask you to share them at some point. I'm not sure when that might be, but I am going to ask you to share them at some point.
Now, you want us to share? You want us to be able to share the team objectives or personal ones?
Just a specific objective, whether it's your personal objective or one for someone on your team.
Okay.
Just to demonstrate its smartness. So, and as I said, the homework is to make sure that all your goals are supported by enough objectives to make sure you're going to achieve the goals. Even though even though our plan for the year has taken a really weird turn this year, organizations are still going to want to achieve goals. And hopefully, will. So homework, do that for everything. And then go back and look at the tactical goals for your team and say, will these objectives, if these are all the objectives for me and everyone on my team, will our team achieve our tactical goals that are in support of the organization's goals? And that going back and doing that gap check can be a really powerful thing to do. Because sometimes once we get down into the weeds, as they say, we can lose sight of the big picture and realize, wow, I've got everybody fully utilized. This is great. Oh, wait, there are tactical objectives we were supposed to achieve that somehow nobody ever got assigned a specific objective to make a reality. So I do encourage you to go back and do that gap check once you've got all your objectives for everyone on your team, you and everybody else, written out. Good. All right, so now that you know what the objectives are, they don't become real until specific people have them. Who's going to do what, right? You have different people. What's a stretch goal for somebody might be completely impossible for somebody else and might be really simple for somebody else, and almost insulting to give them that kind of an assignment. It's just got a stretch goal. So I really like this quote. I put it in your handout, and I even put it on the slide. Right? Who is involved is just as important as what gets done, because what gets done depends on who is involved. So that matching people to objectives isn't something that should happen just randomly. All right, I have 5 people and 10 objectives. Okay, everybody gets 2. Here you go. You got your 2 objectives. Life is good. I have to see things, so I've created my objective chart. So in this case, I have 5 goals. That's what you see indicated down the left-hand side. And many of those goals has more than one objective. So there's my SMART objective for each of those goals, and here's who's working on them. So I could see in some cases, maybe I do have everybody working. Everybody's got to look at their job descriptions by the end of second quarter to make sure that they're all current, they're up to date, and they're approved. In some cases, maybe I have 2 people with a shared goal. In some cases, maybe I have 2 people on the same objective. In that third line, identify at least 1 productivity improvement project each quarter. That's 1 for Wilma and 1 for Barney. And in some cases, I may not have realized that I have given people redundant goals, right? That they're working on the same thing. Are they working together? Or am I spending twice as much of my team's effort on one outcome? So again, just like do I have any objectives that I have no one assigned to? Or do I have too many people assigned to the same objective and now I'm not making a good use of my resources? So you have this in your handouts. You have a blank form in the resources section. If it helps you, use it. If not, forget about it. I find it really helpful to be able to get everything down in one place and look at it as a whole. Part of my job is to keep an eye on the big picture, and it's a whole lot easier for me to see the big picture if it's all in one picture. So, questions about this particular chart, if you should choose to use it?
The numbering on the left side. Do you have multiple 1s, multiple 2s?
Right. My team has 5 tactical objectives, or tactical goals. And those goals have been broken down into, in some cases, multiple objectives.
Got it.
So, for example, my tactical goal number 1 had to do with improving productivity. And so in order to do that, we've got to have real-time data, we've got to have a way to look at that data, and then we've really got to improve it. So that improving productivity tactical goal has 3 SMART objectives tied to it. 2 is my safety goal, and I came up with 2 different objectives, specific objectives. Now in a general sense, every single person, me, Fred, Wilma, Barney, we all have safety objectives to work safely. That's one of those process objectives we talked about, right? It's something I do constantly, and if I have accidents, I'm going to hear about them at the end of the year. These are my outcome objectives that I'm looking at on this form. Got 2 specific outcome objectives that I want to achieve by the end of the year. Cool? More questions? It's a shorthand way to do it. All right, so for homework, you get to do all this. I realize you probably won't get it all done by Tuesday, especially in the world we're living in today. And then go back. Like I said, I find it really helpful to put everything down in one place. Do I have redundancies where either people should work together on something or they have different pieces of something, or I haven't done a good job in assigning that responsibility? I've actually given 2 people redundant work to do. Do I have any gaps? And then the other thing that this can really help me to see is, have I given Fred way more work than I've given Wilma and Barney, and that's completely appropriate because Fred is a senior technician? Or have I given Fred way more work than I've given Wilma and Barney because Wilma and Barney are not my favorites, and I don't trust them to do a lot, and so I'm punishing Fred for not being the worst employee I have? That would not be a good strategy. Is there a reason that work is given out the way it is? Or maybe Fred's objectives are really, easy ones. I've turned on captioning. I wonder how I make that go away. I don't know. It'll be captioned. All right, any other questions? All right, but wait, if you remember last week, I called it eSMART. Anybody know what E stands for? If you've read ahead, you do.
Enticing.
Enticing, exactly right. They're not electronic necessarily, but E stands for enticing. And that really is getting back to that motivational part of using your objectives. There's got to be something in there, in my objectives for the year, that I really do find personally interesting to me. Something that's going to allow me to say, wow, that was really cool. Or I'm excited about working on that. Right, so we talk about goals. We get to use a Venn diagram. We have our organizational needs, right? Those company goals, our tactical goals for our department, things our customers want. All of those things fall in that organizational needs focus circle there. We've got my personal skills as an employee, which includes my job description, the things that I should be learning how to do, or the things I should have learned, whatever I have on my current objectives, as well as feedback from past performance evaluations. You know, Donna, last year we talked about communication being not a strength of yours. So this year, in your objectives, we want to spend a little bit of effort focusing on communication as continuing to develop your skills and as an employee. And then we've also got those things that are even more personal to an employee, which are their interests, right? What do they want to be when they grow up? Where is their long-term vision? Are there certain skills that they're really interested in developing that may be broader than just those that are spelled out in their job description? You know, what do they see as their long-term vision? Do they want to be CEO one day, or CFO, or CIO one day? What kind of things do they really just want to learn how to do? And the more we can find that overlap point, the more those objectives are going to be motivating for that employee and serve the organization's needs, right? That's the overlap that we're really looking for, where we're making the best we possibly can out of this employee, out of their interests, out of their skills, in a way that really meets the needs of the organization. And hopefully with all your employees, those circles move around and around and around so that you cover the whole entire green circle there. All those organizational needs get met. To figure out how to make my screen look the way I want it to. All right, so like I said, we talked about the employee skills. Are there any skills that they need in order to meet their objectives? Right, I think the one Matt talked about, right, where he started with that learning. All right, I need to make sure that that learning is built into their objectives for the year, because in order to meet those objectives of achieving the right thread size gauge thing, making it fit into the thread gauge, having the right size thread, there you go, that's probably what I'm trying to do. Having the right size thread is going to require me to develop new skills. So it's not an objective that should start immediately, because it's going to take me a while to learn that. So I need to make sure that that learning is built in. There's another way to look at employee skills, the sense of flow. Have you heard of flow? You've probably heard of it in regards to sports, right? Athletes talk about being in the zone, right? And it's that feeling when everything has come together. You know, it's you're doing good work, and you're interested in it, and you're excited by it, and it's fun. And in an athletic standpoint, we call that the zone. Well, actually, the research on that started in business. And what the researcher found is that we actually are more likely to experience that feeling at work than we are at any other point in our life, if we're lucky. We tend not to pay a whole lot of attention to it, but that's what he called the flow channel. And the way that works is we start out at a low point, right? We're down here in the entry level. We don't have a lot of skill, And hopefully we don't have a lot of challenge. We're just learning. I'll use an athletic example, T-ball. Right? With little kids, when we're teaching, we don't start teaching them to play baseball. We start teaching them to play T-ball. And for those who aren't familiar with it, they put a ball on a tee there, and you get your little bat, and you hit the ball off the tee. The ball's not moving, only one thing is moving. It's easier to learn that way. Doesn't require a lot of skill, doesn't require a lot of challenge, but as you start to get good at it, you experience that feeling of flow. It feels good. It's like, wow, this is fun. Now, from there, if your skills get better and better and better, and if the challenge doesn't change, you know what happens? It gets boring. Right? If in high school you're still playing t-ball, you're probably not in love with baseball as a sport, because you're saying, this has really gotten to be pretty boring. I'm still here hitting this stupid ball off this stupid tee. We go to golf, smaller ball, smaller tee, smaller head, whole nother issue, different sport. Sorry, random tangent, not relevant. On the other hand, if the challenge goes up too fast, wrong button, and the challenge goes up faster than the skill happens, you move into the anxiety zone. Right? Okay, you've been hitting it off the tee, great. Now we're going to Major League Fastball. This is just going to cause your brain to want to shut down because the challenge has gone up way faster than your level of skills had. Just because you were great at t-ball doesn't necessarily mean you're ready for Major League Baseball. There's a whole big gap in the middle there. So the challenge for you as a leader is to keep those two things, is to keep moving those two things back into balance. So that as people get bored, you increase the challenge and they can move back into that flow zone. Or as the challenge goes up, you give them ways to increase their skill so that they move back into the flow zone. Doesn't matter which way you go, but you will tend to come out and then you want to make sure and do what you can to move them back in. Because when you're in that flow zone, you are at your most productive. You are doing good work and you feel good about it. It's challenging, but not so challenging that it makes you anxious. You've got the skills for it, but not so many skills that you're bored by doing it over and over and over. Can you think of times in your job when you have been in that flow zone? Flow zone, that sounds rather odd. But that you've really felt like, yeah, you know what? I'm having a good day here. I'm working hard, and I'm doing good work. And that's really all anybody wants. Yes, no, maybe, sometimes.
Yeah, to me, I've always thought about it. Those are the days where you look up at the time and you're like, whoa, it's already whatever. When you're in that flow zone, those are the days that the time flies because you don't even realize it took you 2 hours or you were doing it for 2 hours or something like that because you feel challenged, you're excited by it, and you just kind of go.
Yep, you're exactly right, Michael. That's one of the characteristics of the flow zone. Time just goes away. You know, if you're working on your hobby and somebody says, are you coming up for dinner? Say, wait, dinner? Did I miss lunch? Where did the day go? But you were so engrossed in what you were doing that time didn't even matter. Rest of you, just living a life of quiet desperation?
No, I think that happens a lot in manufacturing, especially when you're kind of developing a new process or setting up a new part for the first time, and you're trying to figure things out. And once you kind of have a template that you move forward with, and things, the machines are acting correctly, and you don't have distractions, all of a sudden things just start to click, and next thing you know, 10, 12 hours has gone by, and you don't want to stop.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Manufacturing is especially prone to this. You know, you'll hear people say, oh, you know, we're running on all cylinders. That's very much a manufacturing kind of analogy. You know, the plant is humming today. And boy, few things feel better than that when, you know, everything's working just exactly the way you hope it would be. And life is good. All right. So now the challenge as you're setting objectives, especially for your people, but also for yourselves, is what do you need to do to help people spend more time in that flow, in that feeling of flow, right? Are there parts of the job that really make them anxious and they need a little more support, a little more skill so that they feel a little more comfortable with those parts? And sometimes even more importantly, are there part of the job that it's like, oh, this again? You know, when you're working on those boring things, it's like, oh my God, the clock has to have stopped. You get that feeling in meetings sometimes, right? Time has stopped. Is there something that you can do as a leader to increase the challenge so that it doesn't just feel like such an awful, awful slog, hour after hour, minute after minute, which feels like hour after hour? Right? Where can you find those opportunities to add some challenge to get that person re-engaged and remotivated with what they're doing? Right? If it's working great, is there a way to make it better? You know, where are those bottlenecks, or where is there possible waste in the process that we could streamline and get it even better, improve whatever it might happen to be that we want to improve, safer, faster, more cost-effective, more productivity? There's always opportunities for improvement. And sometimes people just really need to be pushed a little bit to take that challenge on. And objectives are one of the ways you can do that. All right, so we're going to meet their needs so they can meet their objectives, get them in flow. And then the other thing is kind of look a little bit more broadly at your expectations. You heard the story about consulting around expectations? There's this boss who's got this employee, and that's it. They're at their wits' end. They cannot get this person up to speed. And it's not necessarily that they're not doing what they should be doing. Very often the expectations are a lot more about the how. Right? So anyway, in this case, the boss hires this consultant to come in and said, all right, you are this person's last hope. If you can't save them, that's it. They're out the door. So I need you to work with them and get them on board, get them on track. So the consultant says, great, I need to know what exactly do you want of them? What is it they should be doing? Where are they missing the mark? What is it that you're looking for to see? And they take all those notes. Great. They go away, work with the guy, come back. Boss calls the consultant back in. Like, this is fantastic. You have to tell me what you did. You have totally turned this person's performance around. What's your secret? And the consultant says, oh, I gave him the list. Ba-dum-bum. This is the subtle chuckles come in now. Right? The reality is very often if people aren't meeting our expectations, sometimes it's because we haven't actually told them what our expectations are. That person who every time they come in to talk to you inwardly, you go, oh, God, this isn't going to go well. Clearly, there is some expectation of yours that they are consistently not meeting. If you are not happy to see them, come to talk to you. What is that expectation? And again, a lot of times it's much more about the how things are being done than it is about what's being done. So, getting ahead of myself. So what are the expectations about the how? You don't talk to me until things have gone so far astray that it's going to take me ages to straighten them out. You deal with me, you deal with coworkers in a way that makes no one want to deal with you. Right? Really look at those how parts around expectations and then figure out what needs to be in this person's objectives for the next year to help them meet your expectations better. And those kinds of things, that's what people talk about a lot of times when they talk about emotional intelligence. It's not so much about the what as it is about the how. I may have said this before, right? Everybody makes us happy. Some when they come, some when they go. If you have employees who make you happy when they go, they're not meeting your expectations in some ways. The challenge for us sometimes is to figure out what exactly that way is and how to put that in words in a way that can actually become an objective for that person. Not, oh my God, do you always have to be such a pain? That is not, as we say, actionable data. That's just random whining at someone, and that's not going to help them be a better employee. So, are there expectations you have for people? Are there people who are disappointing you in some feels intangible way? Well, guess what? That is a completely tangible way. You just need to figure out what it is, and then what do you want to add to their objectives? And then we can look more broadly at their career, right? What do they want to be when they grow up? What's their next move? If someone, and I've had people tell me this, I've had employees who are in their 20s say, well, this is it. I'm not qualified for any other job in the company. This is the only job I'll ever have. I'm not qualified to work anywhere else. I'm done. You got a whole lot of work life ahead of you to be looking at it that dead-endish already. So what can you do to help people see more broadly? And that doesn't mean they have to change jobs. It doesn't mean they have to take on more responsibilities, but it does mean that you want them to be a productive employee for the long term. I could tell you without any fear of contradiction, when I started out in training, sitting at home in front of my desk, in front of a group of people on video, was never something anyone expected to need to be able to do. And if I had stopped learning at that point in my career, I would now be unemployed. Well, I'd be retired, but there would have been a whole lot of unemployment, and I probably wouldn't have been able to be retired. I'd probably be saying things like, welcome to Walmart or something else right now, right? So to help people see the long term in their career, even if it doesn't mean changing jobs. How is this job going to change in the next 5, 10, 15 years? How old are you? If you're in your 20s, how is this job going to change in the next 40 or 50 years? Because you got a lot of work life ahead of you. What are you going to do to stay a top employee for that whole entire career? And it doesn't mean people have to get promoted. They have to take on more responsibility. It means they have to stay current, right? And that can be technical skills. They're probably, I'm going to pick on Matt for a minute. They're probably people who worked when you never anodized anything and had perfectly good skills for living in an unanodized world. I don't know if that's true or not, but it could be. But now, some parts get anodized. I can't say that anymore. Communication skills are a big one, right? When you start out, if you can put your head down and get your job done, the odds are that's good enough. The longer you're with an organization, the more you need to be able to share your knowledge and experience with others. And there are some folks who are really good at that, and some folks who are really not good at that. What kind of communication skills do people need to be successful for the long term? And then you get into the people skills. I always talk, I've known some union environments where as long as you didn't start a fight on the shop floor, you had adequate people skills for doing your job. Again, that's less and less true nowadays. More and more things require people to work together. So are there certain people skills that I need to build into someone's objectives so that they understand where they want to go for the long term? Way too much talking. Right? The higher you go up the organizational rank, the less important those technical skills become. And the people skills and the communication skills are the ones that make a difference. Questions, comments, thoughts? Well, no one's actually fallen over, so I'm going to guess you're still awake and still with me.
I'm assuming the x-axis on that skills across a career is time.
It's actually volume.
Right?
As an individual contributor, mostly what I need are technical skills, a little bit of people skills, like I said, not fight with other people.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, it's volume. All right, so when you think about yourself, do you have an enticing objective for next year? Something that gets you excited about working on it. Excited enough that you find the time to work on that objective. Because this one is not necessarily productivity driven. Maybe this is that leadership objective. I am going to be this is a goal statement, not an objective statement, a better leader. And I am so excited about that I am going to find time to work on that. And I will come up with some specific measurable objectives that will demonstrate my improvement in my leadership for my people. And then for your people, what entices them? Part of the job do they find most interesting? What can I delegate to somebody because they would love to learn how to do this part of my job? And I would love to get this off my plate because that would free up more time for me to work on other things. Right now, you cannot make this one up in a vacuum. You definitely have to have that conversation with them around it. Because sometimes what we think, oh, you'll love this. You've probably had somebody say that, oh, I have great news for you. You get to work on this. And they look at you like, what did I ever do to you? Or inside their head, they're thinking, what did I ever do to you? Right? So this really does have to be a dialogue. This is not a one-way, I know what's best for you. This is not your time for patriarchal leadership. It's truly your time for servant leadership. What parts of your job do you find the most interesting? What would you like to learn more about? Is there some other part of the company you'd like to learn more about? Can we find a project that would expose you to that part of the company so that you can see? Very often the grass looks greener on the other side of the fence till you get over there and have to mow it and realize it's just as annoying on that side. We had a cross-functional initiative, and we were swapping people between the quality department and the manufacturing department, and it was great because the person who came over from quality now is working in manufacturing and made one of those quality kind of statements. Well, this procedure really needs to be updated. And welcome to manufacturing. Let us know when you're done. Oh yeah, that's the way it works here. We just have to do it. We just don't get to say things ought to happen. Ah, yes, what a fun moment for those of us on the manufacturing side. And I'm sure the person who was assigned to quality had the exact same kinds of experiences. So where are those opportunities to help people broaden their perspective, to help them be more valuable to the organization, even if they're never changing their job? So, goals, objectives, development. It's only tentative. None of it counts until you have that conversation with people, because they have to have the ownership. You cannot be driving this, forcing this through the organization. You really want to get people to engage. The idea is they're motivating objectives. And if it's motivating me, then I am quite comfortable taking it on, and I'm ready to run with it. So we've got to reach agreement. I can come to you with a proposal, but until you've said, yeah, you know what? I think that's specific, measurable, I think it's achievable, I understand the relevance, and I believe that it's possible by that deadline you've given me. I'm on board with this objective. Great. Now we're good. Now we're ready to move forward. Oh, I love this. So it's time to talk to people about them. That's how we get from that draft objective statement that I put on my little chart to actually reaching agreement around them. So, not surprisingly, as much as is humanly possible, you want to have that conversation face to face, or at least monitor to monitor, video monitor to video monitor. And you want people to know what you're getting together. You don't want to just throw this, oh, while you're here, let me throw these objectives in front of you, right? Next week, I'd like to sit down and talk to you about your objectives for the year. So in order to prepare for that, I'd like you to think about things that you are interested in working on, and I'm thinking about things that are important for the department and the company for you to work on, and then we're going to get together and we're going to talk about it. Whether you give them a draft first, that's up to you. And then we're going to reach agreement. And as part of reaching that agreement, maybe we'll brainstorm. Where might be some other opportunities or some different things? What kind of resources might it take in order for you to accomplish those things? What other skills do you need? And one of the things that's always really important to remember is there's lots and lots of ways for people to develop skills. One of the things that we're talking about in the DVIRC is I would not be surprised if coming out of quarantine, if people tighten up training dollars for a while. Because, our business has had some really unanticipated expenses or loss of income, or in some cases unanticipated income, but that's a separate issue. So maybe we're not going to send anybody out to classes right away. There's lots and lots of ways to learn things, though. What kind of job assignments with appropriate support can I give you? I was once on a team, and the team leader was given a stretch assignment to run this project. And it was very obvious that this was a stretch assignment, that they did not have the skills to run a project of this magnitude. And I went to my boss and said, I understand this is a stretch assignment. What are the supporting resources this person is getting to make sure they are successful in this stretch assignment? Because if you just give somebody, here's something really hard, and maybe you'll learn an awful lot if you succeed. Or maybe you and the whole team will fail miserably. We don't usually say that out loud, but the whole team hears that message. So does the person. So you want to make sure they don't feel like they're being set up for failure. So if you're giving them a learning opportunity, what is the support that you're also putting in place to make sure that they can actually have the opportunity to learn and not just the school of hard knocks? So then we'll have the actual conversation, right? Here's what I'm thinking about first I'm talking to my boss. Here's what I'm thinking my objectives are for the year. If your boss hasn't done this, take ownership. Drive the process, right? What do you think? Here's my draft objectives. Do you have any questions? Here's the information or the resources I think I'll need that. Have I missed anything? Right? If your company doesn't have a robust Cascade process in place, this is a great way for you to do a great job for your people, even if your boss is not being a great boss for you. I tell you, I worked for one company, and the president of the company created their objectives. And then they were given to the vice president, who then created their objectives, stapled them on, and they were given to the plant manager, who then created their objectives, stapled them on, and they were given to the department manager, who then created their objectives and stapled them on, and they were given to the supervisors, who then created their objectives and stapled them on, and they were given to the hourly employees, who then created their objectives. So that as an hourly employee saw the objectives all the way up to the president of the company. I think that is truly a best practice, and I only ever saw it once. But at the very least, I can make sure that my people know what my objectives are and how those tie back to the goals of the organization and how their objectives tie back to the goals of the organization. I was a supervisor in that organization, and all of my people had to stand up and present all of their objectives to the team so that everybody knew what was going on. They hated me. Well, this is easy for you. You do it all the time. We don't ever make presentations. And I probably said, being the sarcastic person that I am, you're welcome. The more you do it, the easier it'll get. You're just presenting to your teammates. Here are the things I'm working on for the year.
Donna, can I ask how big that company was that did that?
How big the company was? It was a mid-sized manufacturing company.
Okay.
We had 3 plants, 2 in New Jersey and 1 in Maryland. I don't remember the number of employees. My plant site had about 60 people at it.
Okay.
So, it wasn't a 12-person company.
Sure.
So, now, the whole organization has to truly be committed, because the president can't have their objectives sitting on their desk for 6 months, waiting until they get around to writing them. Everybody's really got to be on it quickly. Otherwise, you'll be lucky if you have finished last year's objectives by the time next year starts. But it's possible because I've seen it happen. At the very least, though, I do that for my people, even if the whole rest of the organization is not doing such a great job.
Donna,
Yes.
so how often were those objectives referred back to, I guess, throughout the course of their tenure, whether it's a year, were the objectives revamped every 3 years? But how often were they brought up and discussed?
Well, they were brought up and discussed at one-on-ones constantly throughout the year, at least once a month. They were redrafted, if you will, annually. I think that's 2 slides from now. So, the next part, after I've talked to my boss and got my boss's agreement on my objectives, is the conversation with my people. Here's the goals for our department. Here's how I think you can help us achieve those goals. What do you think? And that last question is my absolute favorite. What do you think? Right? These did not come out of the mountain on a stone tablet. These are a draft. This is my idea, and in order to get buy-in, I need to hear your ideas. Now, some of the follow-up questions on that. Is some of this actually enticing to you? Does some of this sound interesting and exciting to work on? Is it a stretch? Is it impossible stretch? Just a really good stretch? Are there other things you need in order to be successful at achieving this? Are there other things you would like to work on? Either other goals that you have or for your further development? In your handouts, you have an objective setting self-assessment, and you can look at that to give you a view of things. And then this is what Matt was just asking about, right? You have to follow up on those regularly. If you don't talk about them until the end of the year, then I don't believe they mattered at all. And I wonder why you ever bothered to waste the time writing them down, right? And that includes their personal goals. That shows your commitment to them as a human being and an employee. It's not just about what are you doing for the company. It's also about what is the company doing for you. So how often do you, in general, talk about objectives with people? How often do they come up during the course of a year? You could unmute yourself or chat, whichever suits you.
Hi, Donna.
Never, huh?
This is Damon.
Hey, Damon.
So we in the past few years, just in our factory portion of our company in Barrington, we were using the Hoshin planning with the X matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And there we were bi-weekly. We were reviewing the objectives and the status of the actions to achieve those objectives. This year, our company is pivoting to OKRs instead of using ocean planning, and we're getting the whole company involved rather than just our little factory. And so we haven't updated the factory goals with the objectives, and so we're waiting to align with the OKRs. And so at the corporate level, they're reviewing the objectives once a quarter during our QBR.
Okay. Sounds good. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I actually have 3 engineers that work under me, and I've been meeting with one of them for a little while, and then the other 2 I brought in as of the beginning of this year, where I just have a monthly meeting to check in on tasks that they're working on, projects, goals, and things that we're going to be doing in the future that they're going to be getting involved in.
Okay, sorry. So how often do you touch base? Sorry.
Monthly.
Monthly. Okay.
Yeah. So I have a standing meeting. I meet with them just once a month for an hour. Quick review what's going on the past month, their goals for the following month, and then any upcoming projects that they're going to be involved in.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I have to admit, Heather, I'm a little nervous that once every 3 months might be kind of a long time between conversations.
Well, it was just the first one we had because of I had a second person under me that left, and that initiated the first conversation as to what can we improve when we look into hiring somebody new, because there were some things we realized that we could probably handle without having that second person, and what can we use the second person for more reliably, in the future.
Okay.
So I check in with her once a week because of everything that's going on, because I'm at home and she's in the office. but we don't discuss objectives or anything. It's been a month since we've kind of touched base on things like that. So I should reach out one more time.
Yeah, and again, and I realize during these times, working towards objectives might not be the highest thing on the list. So we're talking in terms of more normal times, how often one might have that conversation. And again, as Matt said, it doesn't have to be a big deal. Just when we sit down for your regular one-on-one, however often we do that, in my world, we pretty much did that every other week. And that, I open my folder with your name on it, and one of the things that's in there is your objective. So how are your objectives going? Hit any obstacles? Anything you need from me? Life is good? Okay, great. It doesn't necessarily have to be an in-depth conversation around every single objective, but just to say, I'm keeping an eye on it. Are you? Okay, good. And you don't need anything? You're on track? That's all I need to know. All right, so like we said, during the year, now it's really moving into the task. And depending on the employee, those conversations might happen very differently. Right? For some people, I may want to get really specific. So next time we talk, I want to hear exactly what is your plan for how you're going to accomplish this. This would be a newer employee or someone with a less robust track record of success. You may want to, it's my way of encouraging them to identify what the tasks are. For other folks, so, you on target? Great. Then I'm confident you'll let me know. You're making progress. I said it doesn't necessarily have to be a really detailed conversation around every single objective. Depending on the person, you know what kind of support they need in order to be successful. Your job is to make sure they're getting what they need to be successful. How many of you think you are the person in yellow bouncing up and down? All right, so we're going into breakout groups. I believe everyone is on Blue Jeans and no one is just on the phone. Is that correct? Taking that as a yes. So what we're going to do is, in your handout, starting on page, wait, I have the old handout. You've got case studies. Being on page...
Looks like it starts on 7, Donna.
Page 7. Got the page, but it's so small I can't read the number. Yep, starting on page 7, you have a bunch of case studies. And so in groups, you're going to work through these case studies. One of you will be the manager, one of you will be the employee, and the other one or two people, I forget how many people we have on our call now, will be observers. So there's a bit of a script to start the conversation so that you get a little bit of background, understanding what's going on there. The manager and employee will start the conversation with the script and then continue to the end of the conversation, which hopefully is handshake. Well, no, not handshake. Sorry, we don't do that anymore. Hopefully is at least a nod of acknowledgement and you reach agreement on a path forward for this employee. Right? Your goal is to save the employee. So I'll tell you what, I'll do the first one with somebody just as a demonstration. I have to put my glasses on. Who would like to play the role of the employee in this first case with me? Make me assign someone? Come on, somebody volunteer here. Okay,
all
Matt,
right, let's
you
do
got
it.
So you're going to be Brian. The role of Brian will be played by Matt today. Oh, so you get to talk first.
Okay, Brian's case study 3?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is Brian case study 3? Forgive me.
Yeah.
I've clearly moved the cases around since I printed it last year. Sorry, we could do case study 1.
Colin is case 1.
Let's do case 1.
Oh, Colin. Okay, case 1. So I'm Colin?
Yes.
All right. When I started, you said I'd be in this assignment for 1 year, and then I'd be assigned to one of the Six Sigma teams. Well, it's been 13 months, and so I thought it was about time that we talked about my next assignment.
Well, Colin, I'm glad you came in. You're going to have a bright future here, but I don't think it's quite the right time to move you yet.
And why not?
I think it'd be more valuable for you to spend a few more months in your present assignment. You'll be assigned to a Six Sigma team, but not yet. There's still a lot for you to learn.
Whoa, that doesn't sound right. Of course I have a lot to learn. I'd learn a lot working on a Six Sigma team, wouldn't I?
Yes, you certainly would. And I want to make sure that when we move you on a Six Sigma team, you're going to be able to be successful in that role. In order to do that, I need you to first be successful in everything in your current job assignment. And you really haven't mastered everything in this role yet.
Well, I think we need to start laying out some of the requirements that I need to move into that Six Sigma role. Because right now I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job, and I'm not sure what I'm working towards. So
Okay.
if we can actually document that and put it down, I at least know exactly what my goals will be.
Yep, that sounds like a really good idea, Colin. I think that would be a great way to prepare you to make that thing. So I'll tell you what, let's each go our own ways, and I'm going to ask you to identify what you think you could still work on in your current role, and I'll do the same thing. And then next time, well, let's get back together in a week, and we'll sit down and we'll compare our lists and make sure that once you accomplish everything on that list, you're then ready to move into a Six Sigma assignment. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, now I just want to be clear, you won't necessarily move into a Six Sigma assignment at that time. There's a whole lot of people in the company who all want to work on Six Sigma projects. We can, though, make sure that you're ready for when the next opportunity comes up. I have no control over when that opportunity might be, but we do have control over making sure you're ready for those opportunities when they arise. You okay with that?
But you can assure me that there are going to be continued opportunities that I can step into in the future.
Oh, yes. We have lots and lots of... This is an opportunity-rich environment.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that's how it's done. Yeah, there you go. Now, observers. Your opportunity is to provide feedback to the manager on things that they could do differently in the future that might help, right? Not what did we do wrong in the past. Because one of the things that you'll see in all of these scenarios is I probably should have been clearer with Brian up front about that expectation. Because you will see this with or Colin, excuse me. You will see this or Matt or whoever. You will see this with employees all the time, right? I could picture this conversation where they're sitting down and the boss says, well, in about a year, hopefully you'll be ready to go on Six Sigma projects. And Colin heard 12 months from today, I will start a new project. And that wasn't what the boss thought they said, but it certainly was what the employee thought they heard. Right? There's almost always some miscommunication that happens. So any feedback for the manager on what they could do differently in this conversation next time, anything they did well, anything they could do differently next time to make it better. I'll admit I've had lots of practice at these conversations, so hopefully I've learned many of the learning opportunities that they present. So that's what you're going to do in your groups. Right? One person play the manager, one person play the employee, and the other people will be observers. And manager and employee finish the conversation, and then the observers offer suggestions to the manager. Here's something you might try next time that might work. Clear?
Yep. Are we doing all of the case studies or just one each per group?
You're doing at least one per group. If you could get through all of them, that would be wonderful. And I'm going to give you until 10 to go through these.
Okay.
Okay? So now I need to go and break you into breakout groups. That's not the mouse. All right, I'm jumping out of my screen. There we go.
I will be right back.
21 divided by 3 is 7, so I'm going to do 6. And I will be moving around between groups, just popping in. All right. Good luck. Oh, good. People are going away.
We're back.
Welcome back.
We are back.
I was giving people an extra minute or two to wrap up as I was bouncing around. It was a little slow getting started, so. Oh, the way people keep jumping in like this.
Always back.
All right, so how'd it go?
Good.
Comments, thoughts, observations? What worked well? What takeaways? What suggestions do you have?
I think that most of them represent real cases that somehow we have had in the past or presently.
Yeah, I mean these things happen all the time. So what do you do about it? What don't you do?
Well, there's I think depending on the scenario, there's some employees that you, and we actually just talked about this, that you have to kind of beat around the bush a little bit to make sure that you present the situation a little bit more gently. And then there's other employees where it's just like, hey, this is how it is. Let's see if we can come to a conclusion. But if it doesn't work for them, it doesn't make a difference. The situation isn't going to work out.
I think that's a good point, and I think something that we talked about too was the importance of rapport, like genuine rapport building and relationship building prior to conversations like this. They will become easier, and I don't mean easier to do, I mean easier to have more difficult conversations for you to understand what that employee needs. You know, I had a woman who worked for me who, no matter how gentle I was, she would cry, she was angry, and so I had to find ways to have conversations with her that in no way, shape, or form sounded like I was ever telling her that her behavior or what she was doing was incorrect. I would get around to that, but I always knew that if that's where I started, I would lose her the moment we started the conversation. And so having that knowledge, having that relationship, I knew when we had these conversations, they couldn't be, I was in an office of 4 at the time, and they needed to be outside of that office experience. She wasn't willing to open up, because our office was small. You were across the hall from someone. And so, we had to build when we were doing that. And I had to make sure that I wasn't asking her to meet outside of the office only for those situations, because that became a tale of we're having a difficult conversation. But, so I had to build that in because I knew that's how she worked, which was the complete opposite of the other people that worked for me. And again, because I built that relationship with her, I knew how to have that conversation appropriately with her, hopefully to be hitting those points home.
Yeah, good. I think that's a really good point. Some people are totally fine with brutal honesty, and some people need incredibly gentle honesty. It doesn't mean you should ever lie to anyone, but figuring out how to present your message so that the other person can hear it is critically important, as Michael was just saying. Other thoughts? Observations?
I'd say the common theme in them all was that lack of communication and assumptions on both sides led to complete misunderstandings. The differences were, like in one case, the manager made an assumption that an employee was unhappy doing the same thing day after day, but in actual fact, she was perfectly happy and there was no need for him to be concerned. In fact,
let me challenge you on that, though, Ian. Is it okay? I assume you're talking about Angela. Is it okay to have an employee who doesn't want to grow?
I think it is, as long as that is clearly understood by both parties. If it's important for that job function to have growth and cross training, then I agree it's not. But if it's perfectly valuable to have an employee doing the same thing with no ambition, I think that can be valuable in itself.
How long can you guarantee me that you won't need me to learn anything new in my job?
So I'm gonna have to side with Ian about this, because these are the individuals that manufacturing loves, because they provide stability and consistency. Now, there is the caveat, just like you said, and we brought this up in speaking about Angela's case, is we can't guarantee that there isn't going to be some sort of automation that could take that job away from her in the future. So this is one of those gentle conversations that we love the fact that you love what you do and you don't want to leave this position. It offers confidence that I'm always going to have you available to do this job, and I can plan around that. But we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So let's continue to have these conversations. And I just want to give you a heads up that you are a valuable employee, but we're going to have to be ready in case something happens where this position is no longer available. And it could be a year or 10 years from now. But I think you need to continue and just give them the heads up that I will always want you on the team. We just may have to find another spot for you in the future.
Right, and I think Matt's really hit on it. You know, I don't know what the future holds, and if I want you to be a valuable employee for the future, then I need to know that you're willing to learn, and you're willing to try, and you're willing to grow. I'm not saying that you have to stop doing what you're good at and what you've always done, but unless your employee can tell you how many days it is to retirement, I would be really, really, really uncomfortable accepting, I'm just going to keep doing this. Or you tell me your company has achieved perfection, you have no improvement goals, you're not looking to get better at anything, then by all means keep doing what you've always done. Most companies are not in that boat, and we need to be better and more competitive and more productive. And the only way we do that is if people do things differently. And it's nice to have the steadiness and to have the conversation with Angela in a way that doesn't lose that, but that builds on that. That, yes, I think, you said it really well. I love the fact that you love your job. I love having someone who's reliable in this position. And I want to have that for the long term. And that's going to mean different things in the future than it's meant in the past. None of our jobs have been unchanged for 5 years. So if you're less than 5 years from retirement, I need to figure out how to make sure you keep growing so that you stay current, because the bar only moves up.
Yeah, well, so the point I was making is as part of treating people differently, a lot of people are afraid of change, and that fear is probably what's driving Angela to be wary of getting involved in other work. So you have to encourage her in a way that doesn't feel threatening. But,
right, yeah, I think
my
exactly
concern
right.
is if the manager's too blunt and applies pressure, he'll end up driving her away, and that's the last thing he wants to do.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah, that's an especially tough case that Angela won, because I really do want to get her motivated to pull growth opportunities. As Ian just said, if I'm forcing growth onto her, all she's going to do is resist harder and harder. And I'm going to lose a good, reliable, consistent, productive employee rather than developing an even better employee for the future. And that's that balance, which can be really tough to find that point. But I'm very hesitant to say, yeah, just keep doing what you've always done, because, we'll need that job forever. Because there's not too many jobs I've seen in my career that have been unchanged across a person's entire history. All right, any other questions, comments, observations? The one thing I heard as I was bouncing around is it's really important to leave that conversation with a documented action plan. I think that's a really good thing to have in your head. That moving forward, we got a plan for the future. Otherwise, an employee just feels like they got to brush off. Any other thoughts? All right, so you've probably know what are going to be some of your challenging conversations as you move forward with this. take the time to really think about what you're going to say, what they're probably going to say, and how you're going to be prepared to deal with that. Because then, even if they say something different, it's easier to react to it if you've put in that preparation up front, like anything else in life. It's that upfront preparation that makes all the difference. And ask the rest of us. Maybe we can help. All right, so that's your homework. Be prepared. So, the process overall, have your goals, get agreement on your objectives, and don't lose sight of that throughout the year. Keep notes, so at the end of the year when you have to write it up, you got all your notes, takes you 5 minutes. Okay, maybe not 5 minutes, but it shouldn't be grueling, because you should already have all that ready. Then, once more with feeling, over and over again. If people have this exact same objectives year after year after year, they're probably not that enticing anymore. And go back and revisit. Questions? So, as much as you can, recognizing how weird the world is, think about your team's objectives or your team's goals and some of the objectives for you and your people. And I am going to ask you for some more examples next time. All right, questions, comments, observations?
I have a question. We have scheduled one meeting for next week, right?
Yes.
And nothing else after that, right? At this point, at least remotely.
We have 2 scheduled for next week, Tuesday and Thursday.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So both at 10 o'clock. So that way we'll get through. And I think I'm going to skip the schedule, and we're going to do Module 5 next week, and then we'll do Module 4, hopefully when we're back together. Because I think that feedback one, believe it or not, the accountability is easier to do virtually than feedback. So I'm going to jump us out of order if that's okay with you.
Okay. May you send the documentation, like the paperwork today? I'm in the office, so I like to have it printed to take notes, so I just take advantage of that.
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Looks like if we only go to breakout groups once per class, they seem to work much better. It was last time when we went back in the second time, so I'm trying to figure out how to do it with only one breakout group per session. Any other comments?